Hello, this video is going to be on the ALEKS topic, factoring a quadratic by the AC method. So we're going to do some factoring by grouping, which this program calls the AC method. So recall that whenever you have a quadratic written in standard form, this is your A value, whatever's in front of the variable squared. This is your B value, the coefficient of the variable, and this is your C value. So in this case, A equals 3. Since there is no number in front of the x, we just look at the sign and we think that there's just one of these x's, so it's -1. And C is -4. One of the most common mistakes is people don't remember to use the negative. Remember, use whatever sign is in front of the number. If there is no sign, it's positive. So we're going to choose a form with appropriate signs and show how we factor this. Now, how I like to do it is using the x method. So on top, you put whatever a times c is equal to, and on bottom, you put b, and I remember that b is for bottom. So b is -1, and a times c, that would be 3 times -4, which is -12. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find two numbers that when I multiply them, right, this is multiplication, they multiply to make -12, and when I add them, they add up to make -1. Well, let's see, the factors of 12 are 2 times 6, but those won't add to 1, 4 times 3, and 4 times 3 actually will add to 1, because one of them has to be negative, right? Because a negative times a positive makes a negative. So let's see, the -1 tells me which one's negative, because this sign tells me which one's bigger. Since this is negative, the bigger one's negative. Let's check this. -4 times +3 makes -12, and -4 plus 3 makes -1. Good. So I found my factors. Now, when you have a negative and a positive factor, it's easier to have the positive one go second. All right, and you'll see why when we do our factorization. But for now, just know that when you have two factors, if one of them is positive and the other one's negative, put the positive one second. So the -4 will go first, and the +3 will go second. So that means you would select this one and write in here your -4 and your +3. Now let's take this and let's just rewrite it out. 3x squared minus 4x plus 3x minus 4. Now, I want you to realize we didn't really change anything, okay? This here, this -1x, we just rewrote that as -4x plus 3x. What is -4x plus 3x? Well, that's -1x, and that's what we had before, right? So we didn't really change anything, we just changed what it looks like so that we can factor it. Now, what you do when you factor is you group the first two terms together, and you group the second two terms together. And you think, what can I factor out of each of these? That's why it's called factor by grouping sometimes. Now, what do these have in common, these two terms? 3x squared and -4x. Well, they both have an x, right? So that means I can factor out an x. 3x squared, how do I get that? X times what? X times 3x would give us 3x squared. And x times what gives us -4x? Well, just -4, right? Think of it like you're distributing, but backwards. And now I want to get this so that I have the same thing in parentheses as I did here. Well, in this case, you see how this is already the same, 3x minus 4. So there's nothing I can factor out of here. There's no similarities between x and -4. They don't have any common factors. So I'm just going to factor out a +1. Because when I multiply something by 1, it doesn't change what it is. And ultimately, what I want to get inside here is the same thing that I had in the other parentheses. Now, I can actually rewrite this by just writing what's in parentheses here once. Because when I distribute x to this, and I distribute 1 to this, it would actually be the same thing as just writing it all out together. So what I do is in my first parentheses, I write out the coefficients, x plus 1. And in my second parentheses, I write out what was in the group, 3x minus 4. And I only have to write it once because when I multiply these two things and I FOIL them out, what I'm really doing is this yellow right here. I'm doing x times 3x, x times negative 4, and then I'm doing 1 times 3x and 1 times negative 4, right? So that's why I'm able to just write it once I grouped it. So here's your answer. X plus 1 times 3x minus 4. And you should be able to put these in either order.